Hello, I'm Mr. Polk and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to actually make the pizza. So we're going to start with the yeast dough. Last time we had it, it was small. We left it double in bulk, so it's twice the size that it was. We're going to take the wrapper off, and then I just put it on top of my wooden board. And the next step, they call it punching down, but I don't like to just kind of punch at it. I like to gently just press it down, and what you're doing is getting rid of the gas. Okay, so you're getting rid of the CO2, pressing it down, and then you can regather it into a ball. So I just kind of grab it like this and pinch it, and then make it into a ball. And now you can divide it. Now you could either scale it, or if you're going to make the real small pizzas, like we would do in class, scale that to about 3 ounces. If you want to make like the ones I'm showing you today, you can scale that to about 6 ounces, or it works out if you just cut it in quarters. So we just cut it, and then cut it again, and then each one of these you want to then turn into a ball. So take it through your hand like this, and then you pinch it. This would be the same method if you wanted to make dinner rolls. You pinch it, and then just sort of run it around like that, and that's going to make the ball of dough. Now, you do want to let this rest a little bit because you did just work on it and then press it down. It will roll a little easier if you let it rest. So we got 2 done. Might as well just do them all for you. And then, like I said, this will do about a 10-inch pizza. If you wanted to do more, you just maybe just cut it in half and make 2 larger ones. Whatever it is you want to do. And like I said, you could also scale them at 6 ounces, but this pretty much makes 1.5 pounds of dough. Okay, so there we go. And then while you're working these, what you're going to do is just cover them because you don't want them to dry out on you. So hit some trim wrap, and then we'll get started. Okay, so when you form your dough, what you're going to notice is that there is some moisture. So you want to take the same flour that you were using. This was the high gluten. Put a little bit of flour down on your board, and it could be just your counter or a Silpat, whatever surface works. And then once you put some flour down, put some more on top of the dough. And we're not making a huge pizza like you see at the pizzerias where you're going to be able to throw it around. But you will be able to work it a little bit. But because it is small, I start with a rolling pin. And I'm just going to roll it out this way. I'm going to turn it and roll it out again. Now you're going to notice it is a little tougher because this dough does have the strong gluten. We use the high gluten flour. Once you get it to about here, this is where you can start to kind of work it a little bit with your hands. So once you get to this point, you can hold it up and you just kind of stretch it. And what's happening is you're stretching it apart and you're letting the weight of the dough actually make it larger. Okay, and this is why you see people throw it in the air, or they'll work it off the edge of the table like this so it hangs, because it's the weight of the dough that stretches itself out. Now, this dough I didn't really let it rest because I wanted to keep moving, so I will have to work it just a little bit more. But you can see that it's starting to stretch out. Now what I'm going to do, sometimes people kind of work it like this too. You see it on the table, and you just keep going around and pulling it. What you want to do is you want to stretch it, but you don't want to rip it. So I'm going to give it another roll. I'm just going to kind of roll it out. You can kind of hear it. We'll roll it again. We're close to this. I mean, we're maybe 8 inches. We're going to go a little bit bigger. And we'll just turn it once more. And then we're going to do that little pull thing. Now, the nice thing is your first one you might have to work with a little bit, but then your next couple, as they sit, they relax a little bit, and they'll be easier. So now, we're just going to do that trick again. You're going to see, look, by letting it rest, look at that. As I go through, you can start to see that it stretches right away. It starts to make that funny shape at the bottom as it goes around, because we're stretching it out. We want to stretch this out maybe 9, 10 inches or so. You want to have a thin pizza, because here's the thing. It is tricky to make pizzeria style pizza at home because you don't have the ovens, you don't have the deck ovens like they have where they get really hot and they only are about 8 inches high, so the heat is intense. Those types of ovens have heat on the top and heat on the bottom, so they do it intense. So when we cook this, what I recommend you do is get your oven as hot as you can get it. I have mine at 550. You know, that's hot. We've never used them that hot before for our recipes, but we want this to cook right away. This looks really nice. Now what I'm going to do is give it one last little roll. You do want to avoid using too much extra flour. You don't want it sticking to the board, but if it's not sticking, don't worry about adding extra flour, because that's just going to add the taste and everything else, and the dough will start to get a little tougher too. So this looks good. So what I'm going to do is put just a touch of flour here, because the bottom of the dough does start to collect moisture, and we don't want that. And then I'm going to get the pizza peel, and you don't want the dough to stick to the pizza peel, so you're going to use a combination of, you could just put flour down, you could put cornmeal down. I like to use, this is a blend of flour and semolina flour, so it's light cornmeal, and you just spread it over top of your peel so that it doesn't stick. And then you take your pizza, it was resting, so I just kind of give it one last little go around here to stretch it, and then lay it down, and then just get it to a circular shape. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then what I do every once in a while is I always make sure I kind of shake it to make sure that it's not sticking to the peel. Then you do your sauce. You can make any kind of sauce you want. This is a red sauce. They have recipes for red. You can make a white, like a bechamel. You can make a barbecue. You can do anything you want. Put about 2 ladles down, and I'm just doing the trick like you see them at the pizza shops, is just go around the edges. Now this is what people don't always realize. You don't have to make the crust. Okay, all you're doing is letting dough on the outside that doesn't have any sauce, because the weight of the sauce and everything is going to keep the dough down, and then here when it goes in the oven spring, it's going to be able to puff up. Cheeses, you can do anything you want. I'm doing the traditional mozzarella cheese because it melts nice. You could do an Asiago or Fontina. If you're doing like a barbecue chicken pizza and you want Colby Jack, whatever you want to try. But you definitely want something that's nice and melty and stringy, and that gives you the traditional pizza fare. Now the other thing is, a lot of times we always want to like mound everything up. We want to have the bigger, better, faster, stronger pizza. And you really want to avoid that. You don't want to overdo your toppings, okay? So I'm going to do one of my favorite little pizzas here, and that's one I like to call the 3 Little Pigs. So we're going to put some sausage on, and try to be nice with it. You don't have to spend forever placing it out, but make it look nice. Then this one gets a little bit of ham. I'm going to put some diced ham on there. Any proteins that you're putting on your pizza want to be pre-cooked. So like the bacon, I pre-cook the bacon, and don't cook the bacon all the way. Don't make it like it would be crispy for breakfast. That way when it goes in the oven, it's going to continue cooking and it'll get crispy. If it's too cooked when it goes in, it'll get overcooked. If you're going to put chicken on your pizza, make sure that's pre-cooked. Pepperoni, ham, stuff like that's ready to go. If you want to put veggies, just have them cut and ready. Some people want to pre-saute them. Sometimes people like the sauteed onions on the pizza, or they just want the raw onions, anything like that. And then this is ready to go in the oven. And all you're pretty much going to do is put the peel into your oven, and you just kind of give it like a quick jerk front and back, and it's going to slide into your oven. Or you could be making this right on a pan. If you're putting your pizza on a pan, I recommend that you use a perforated pan that has holes in it, because with the holes, it's going to allow the heat to go through. If you bake it on a solid surface, other than a stone, obviously I'm going to put that on the stone in the oven. It's been nice and hot, and it's going to start cooking right away. If I have it on a regular sheet tray or a flat pizza pan, you're going to trap moisture and you won't get a nice crispy crust. The other pizza I want to show you is the one that we made without the yeast. So this is what that dough looked like that we made that doesn't have any yeast in it. Now I'll tell you what, it's nice and soft. I put a little bit of flour down. And this one, you can actually do some of the same technique. You can roll it a a little bit. Like I said, it's really soft. It's a nice soft dough. The carbonated water that goes in it really puffs it up a lot. Let me pull that back. And you can even do the little tricks, you know, it works. You can hold this up, pull it a little bit, but again, it is soft, so you just got to pull a little bit, and there you have your nice pizza dough that you could then do. And you treat it the same way, it's just that this is a non-yeast dough versus the yeast dough. And the only reason I did that is so that if you didn't have yeast at home, you could still make a pizza dough. So let's take a look at what the pizza looks like after it bakes. So it doesn't take long to bake. It bakes for a couple minutes in the oven. I think these small pizzas I was pushing maybe 6 minutes. And let's take a look how they look. So we have these two here. And then these guys. And one thing you're going to notice is that when you run the high temperature and you run the pizza stone, you have a really nice looking pizza. And what's going to happen is this pizza has what I mentioned during the recipe about the possibility of wanting to add a diastatic malt powder if you have it. This dough, I did add it to it, and the reason I did is so that the sugars process out, and since it was going overnight, it would do a really nice job in making the brown crust. And that's sometimes I think the hardest thing is you make a pizza and the crust just comes out white. Now you're going to notice the three with the yeast, really dark, really nice, pizzeria style. This guy is close. This is the one that has the no yeast, but you can see that it kind of has that flatbread look to it. It is a little bit whiter, but it does have the browning. And one thing I want you to notice is that it's still puffing up like a regular pizza. Like the regular dough makes these little pockets, okay, these little bubbles. I'm getting those in here. So this didn't have yeast, but it uses the carbonation from the water and uses the baking powder, the CO2 from the baking powder, to react and make a really nice job. And if you look at these, I'll just kind of cut through one of these. You're going to see real nice crisp, real nice crust. Then you start to get a really nice crust on the bottom. You know, and look at how nice and thin that is. I mean, it really is that pizzeria style. And I'll show you this one right here. And again, this is the no yeast. Look at that. Even though it doesn't have yeast in it, it's not going to taste like a pie dough, or it's not going to taste like dense. That's what everybody worries about. It still has the layers, and those layers happen, again, because of the carbonated water and because of the baking powder. So there you go. You know, make your pizza. You got to let it rest. You got to work it. And then what you need to do is get it in the oven, 550 degrees, whether it's going on a stone, okay, with the peel, or you're just making it on a pizza pan or on a sheet tray. Whatever you're going to do, get it in the oven, get it to bake. Pretty much if the edges start looking like this, if your toppings look good, and your cheese is bubbly, it's pretty much going to be done. And that's the reason we want to make these real thin. You don't want a thick crust pizza. We're trying to make a thin crust pizza. And then when you're done, there you go. So I want to thank you for cooking with me today, and I hope to cook with you next time right here at Mr. Polk's Kitchen.